This is where I'm up to on this first of the rear wings. I think in the last film I had made the sides, I'd wired up the edges and rolled the top here over. So now I've been working on and off on the top piece, and I actually made it as 3 separate pieces which are then welded together. You can see the welds there. Just because it was easier to actually make it that way. So what I did is cut the 3 strips of steel and basically shape them to fit the buck, and then when I was happy they were fairly close, I welded them together. And I'm still playing with getting the fit nice. I think the better the fit is now, the easier it's going to be for me to weld these together. Although, because the steel is movable, I should be able to adjust it with a hammer and dolly when I need to get the edges to match up. There may be a few places where I need to trim it a little bit, where the edges aren't quite straight. You can maybe see down here it's not quite a straight line there, so it may need a little bit of filing or trimming just so I can actually get these edges nice and tight to weld them. But like I say, you can use the hammer and dolly to sort of line the edges up, and it's all going to be hammered when it's finished to get it all smooth, so I think a little bit of leeway there is okay. You can see this piece is now actually quite big, and that actually started causing a problem. It's actually got too big now to make it easy to work with. So I have been using all the different tools to be able to make this piece. I've been using the rollers there, and I actually ended up having to flip the rollers so that I can run the guard through upside down, because it's now too big, too tall to fit through this way, because it'll hit the ground. I've also, if we'll pick this up, I was also making use of the slip rollers there to get the initial curve into the metal, and a lot of use of the shrinker there, and also a little bit with the English wheel, not to put shape into it. I was actually using that to help put some of the curve back in after I welded it. So if we can put this down, what I find is when I'm welding these sort of things, it can be quite hard to get the shape in it. When I weld it, it sort of goes flat. You get a little flat spot there. So I was running it through the wheel upside down with very, very little pressure, and just sort of pulling it around the top wheel to help get the curve back into here. Once it's all welded up, I should be able to use the hammer and dolly to be able to put some of that shape back in. I'm also hoping I can run this through the wheel to get a little bit of crown on this, just so it's not flat. But that might actually be quite tricky because the piece is so big and it's so curved. I may not actually be able to get it to fit, but I was thinking about doing it in sections, but then the problem is you'd get even more of a dip, or if you've got compound curve on this, it's going to curve like that. And if you wheeled the pieces separately and then tried to weld them together, I think what would happen is you'd end up with little humps. So I don't think that would work. I'm not quite sure. So I've gone for doing it this way, and we'll see how that works. I started making the rear ones because I thought they might be easier, thinking that the front ones were going to be so much longer. But as it happens, the rears are probably the harder ones to do. So I can't really sit it in place at the moment, but you can see to wrap around the tyre there's an awful lot of shape there. On the front there's actually less shape, and it's probably about the same length, because the only shape in this is a little bit of curve here, and then a big long straight line, and then a little bit of curve at the bottom. So that may be easier to do. We'll have to see.